Okay, y'all, I apologize. I was having some technical issues. My goodness. Thanks for hanging on with me. So appreciate y'all. I don't know what happened. I was in a whole other meeting and it wasn't letting me join you guys. So here we are, though. We are going to jump right in. So we are doing money and partnership, so financial strategies for shared success. Okay, so we have quite a few things on the docket today. Again, thanks for your patience as we got started here. So first things first, what I hope you're going to take away from this webinar is setting mutual goals. Okay, coming to an understanding with one another, whether it's a family situationship, your partner, your husband, wife, whoever that you are commingling money with. Maybe it's even just a roommate. Okay, we're going to set those goals. And then we're going to find a plan that works for all of us, having some good uh, communication with one another, and some STEM work that will go through a bunch of different financial works, okay? And then we'll talk about how we can navigate financial challenges as a unit. So that's what I hope you take away from today's class. Now, when we're thinking about finances and when we bring up the topic of finances, it might feel a little uncomfy for some, okay? So just knowing that and understanding that, yes, this may not be everyone's favorite topic to talk about, but it is important. So we're going to kind of start with setting the stage up. So setting that stage can be looking at what are our beliefs around money? What are our behaviors with money? What are our emotions with money? And what is that for the people in our lives, right? So these beliefs around money can be learned in childhood. They can be passed through generations. They can often be subconscious, okay, where we don't even really know that they may be happening. And they can be partial truths where they're sometimes helpful for us, sometimes not. But no matter what, we're responsible for those financial outcomes. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about any beliefs that you have around money, maybe any emotions that you may have as well. So, for examples, if you were taught that credit cards are evil and never to get a credit card, right? That might be something that you learned in childhood that maybe got passed down from generation to generation. There is some partial truth with it, right? Yes, if we use them incorrectly or irresponsibly, they can lead us to some financial troubles, right? So really thinking through like some of those things that we might have learned. I personally learned that if something was on sale, it's for me. Okay. So that was something I had to relook at and really think about when I go shopping. When I see that sale item, I'm very like, ooh, like, do I actually need this item? I have to take that moment and reflect on it. Okay. So think about your money beliefs and then think about the ones around you and see if you might come up with any that they may have. Okay. Have that conversation with them as well. What are some money beliefs that they may be carrying on? Now, when it comes to that, we need to kind of have that understanding around money. Okay. So taking turns sharing our money story, whether it's using those money beliefs to kind of spur that conversation. Okay. It can also be what's your earliest memory about your money? Okay. What did you learn about money growing up? How did those lessons influence you now? Right? These are building empathy and understanding with one another. We're just listening here. We're not offering any advice to one another or passing judgment, especially onto ourselves too. Okay. And asking these questions in a neutral area, neutral time frame can be very key. Okay. We don't want to break these questions out in the middle of an argument, right? So really phrasing these as a way to get to know one another, how they're feeling about money, maybe what they've kind of learned or their thoughts and processes around money. Okay. Now, again, leading on to that empathy piece and that understanding, because we're a teamwork. Okay, so we're going to turn that tension of talking about finances, which can be kind of a taboo-y kind of topic for some, or just maybe uncomfy, right? So we want to turn it into actionable things where we can learn from one another. So we're going to take turns completing sentences, okay? So like one thing that stresses me out is blank, and what I need from you is blah, okay? So it could be one thing that stresses me out is not knowing when utility bills are due, and what I need from you is to help me figure out when those are due and set up a game plan for who's paying it, who's not, okay? So that's what it could kind of look like. This will help us kind of have a shared understanding again from one another, kind of see from one another's perspective, maybe what's happening, because we may not even know that that's stressing them out, okay? So it reframes the money stress as a shared problem, something that we can do together and it'd be addressed, and not a personal flaw, okay? And it's important, again, to not cast blame to one another, but really seeking what is stressful and what action item can be accomplished together. Now, when it comes to figuring out finances as a teamwork, goals and values can really come together and help you with that conversation. So if there is something you guys want to accomplish together, that can help you all come to understandings and those conversations of how are we going to get that together then? Or how are we going to make this work? And then are there things we want to accomplish individually? And then what's a value that you each have and shared values? For instance, if one person really values family time, what does that look like? Does that mean dinner's out or does that mean dinner's in, right? That's a big difference for some folks. So really kind of figuring out, yes, that's a value of family time, but really drilling down into what exactly do you need to fulfill that value, okay? For me, I love arts and culture. So one thing that we implemented is going to the theater at least twice a year. So we set aside a little bit of money for our date nights to hit that value of mine of arts and culture, okay? So that could be an example here of a value and you making sure that it's fulfilled within your budgets. Now, when we're talking about finances with partnerships or in family statuses, it's important to kind of figure out that there's different approaches to then figuring out these goals and values. So really thinking about our money goals now. So consider what our goals are, trying to make them smart, so specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound, okay? And then prioritizing them. So when we're out shopping, doing our groceries or whatnot, we're having those on top of mind so we can have that this or that kind of conversation or reflection with our purchases. Okay. We're going to try and automate as much as we can, okay? So especially if it's a savings goal, we're going to try and automate some money going into savings, some money going into bill pays, all of that jazz, okay? But then importantly, or just as important as setting that goal, is to review it often and regularly with each other, okay? Setting up those milestones for yourself so you can kind of keep track of that progress. Now, when you are trying to figure out bills, especially within a partnership, there's a couple different philosophies that we can go into. Okay, but the biggest importance is not losing that independence. Okay, so we're yours, mine, ours kind of thing. Most relationships don't need to fully merge or fully separate their finances, but they just need clarity. Okay, you need clarity, you need boundaries and communication with one another in order to make this work and make it less tension around bills and saving goals. Now, there's a few philosophies I'm going to run through with you all about how we can kind of merge or separate our finances. So here's the four that I'll cover, and just know you can try one, try a different one. Maybe come up with your own system of like a little bit of this or that within here, okay? So there's going to be equal, where we're splitting everything equally. We'll get into it a little bit more. Percentages, the I got you next time philosophy, or what's yours is mine is, and what's mine is yours, right? So let's kind of dive a smidge deeper into these different philosophies when we're talking about merging our finances or not merging our finances. So that first one, equal amount. Okay, what is it, right? So this is where we're keeping finances separate, except for a jointly held account that we both contribute to equally here. So if we are saying we're each going to put in $2,000 a month into that joint account, and we're both putting it into there. Okay. This is useful when couples consider themselves to have equal incomes and equal finances, or they're in the financial positions to be kind of more of that equal. Okay. Now, this one can be a little bit harder or feel icky for some if they're making a lot less. So that's where this percentage one might feel a little bit better for some folks or some situations. Okay. So this is where we're still, again, we're keeping finances separate, but then we're merging stuff into a joint account to pay for those bills that are in both our names, right? So those, we're going to agree upon a percentage of each of our paychecks. So this works when one partner substantially makes more income than the other, but we're both putting like 30% of our income to a joint account. Okay, so if you're making a lot more, it'll be more money going into that account, but it's the same percentage of our paychecks. So it still feels equal within the relationship there. Okay, so this can work for some situations. Okay. Now, another kind of philosophy is the I got you next time one, okay? It's where we take turns paying bills. So one month you got it, the next month I got it. And this could work with the other ones, but in other kind of categories. So it could work with groceries, for instance, right? If we're not using a joint account for those, we can use this kind of philosophy of like, I got it this time, you get it next time. So you can definitely kind of combine some of these philosophies of budgeting together, okay? This one, though, is nice for couples who don't want to combine finances at all, don't even want to have that joint account, okay? This one might work really well too for like that beginning stages of relationships as well, okay? Now, the last one is where we are going to merge stuff. Okay, it's what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. Okay, and this is we're combining finances entirely. So it's useful in a very committed relationship or when there's only one income. Okay, so that way everyone can kind of see what's happening. All bills are paid out of the same area, and you're fully merged here with your finances. Now, with all four of these different philosophies, it's important to recognize how comfortable you are with them and what's comfortable for your partner and your relationship, what's going to work and what's feasible for your relationship and the bills and finances that you're in charge of and responsible for, okay? Now, ways that we can kind of help figure out if these are working for us and to attain those goals can be what's called money dates. These are very helpful, again, to reflect on those goals that we set for ourselves and as a group. But it's also really helpful, again, just to reevaluate, are things working the way we are with paying our bills and paying for groceries and all of that, right? Or do we need to reevaluate? Do we need to try a different kind of budgeting philosophy with one another? Do we need to hold each other accountable for anything? And what does that look like? What type of accountability are we going to give one another? Okay. So these money dates can be a great time to kind of set up those regular check-ins and reevaluate all of our goals, finances. Good time to log into everything again and just see where everything is at. Now, the biggest thing is to make sure that it's not a blaming time, okay? It is really coming together. It's us versus the problem, not me versus you, okay? So really framing it that way. I also like to mention that money dates can be stacked on other things that you already have. So if you do a monthly little dinner date already, like that's a habit you guys have already established, then adding this in can just be very helpful, where you just are stacking your habits is what it's called. And so that way you're kind of tackling it with something that you do enjoy. So that way it doesn't feel like a chore to do this money date. We want to make sure that it's a good conversation for all parties. Okay, Now, if you guys are struggling with trying to figure out the different types of accounts, maybe that you may need, or you just have more questions when it comes to budgeting in particular, we do have our financial coaches and they can meet with you one-on-one or as a team, okay? Where you can have someone be a moderator for you if you need that conversation with your relationship and trying to figure out what's working, what's not when it comes to budgeting. So I will leave this up here for just a smidge here. So if anyone is interested in financial coaching, it's completely free, y'all. So definitely something that you can take advantage of. Again, they can be that moderator for you. So if you just don't even know how to bring up this conversation, this could be a fun way to do it as well. Okay. Now, as a fun little thing, we do have a little survey here for a chance to win $50. And we do have a little bit of time, and the chat should be open as far as I know. It should be open. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop it in the chat too, since we have a little bit of time if you would like to. But again, enter into win $50, y'all. It's drawn at the end of each quarter. So pretty good odds of joining for that drawing. But thanks for hanging out with me for the last 20-ish minutes or so. It was great to kind of cover these topics with you. I do see a question. It's the Q&A. Perfect. So Q&A is open. I always forget which one. So chat is not, but the Q&A is open. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'll hang out for just a little bit and then otherwise I will close out the webinar here in a moment. Okay. Well, fabulous, y'all. I'm not seeing any other Q&As in here, so I'm going to go ahead and end our webinar. But thank you again for hopping on for this little webinar, y'all.